Excuses may feel comforting in the moment. They let you avoid the sting of failure, the discomfort of effort, or the weight of responsibility. It's the light leads you, but they really do is quietly steal your progress. Every time you choose an excuse over action, you're trading the possibility of success for the temporary relief of avoidance. Progress demands that you face reality, even when it's unpleasant. Excellence requires ownership. You can't be pointing fingers at circumstances, people, or luck and still expect to rise to the top. It's the moment you accept that your results are your responsibility, you put yourself back in control. It's not about whose fault it is. It's about what you can do about it. Ownership gives you power. Excuses take that power away. Think of every excuse as a brick in a wall between you and your goals. The more excuses you pile up, the higher that wall becomes. Eventually, that leads you. You can't even see the dream on the other side. Winners don't build walls. They build bridges. They look for solutions, alternatives, and new approaches until they find a way through. Yes, excuses can protect your pride, but they also destroy your future. When you choose discipline over excuse-making, you choose growth over stagnation. Discipline may be uncomfortable, but it builds the habits and results that excuses never will. Discipline is a seed, excuses are weeds. One nurtures your future, the other chokes it. The truth is, growth begins where excuses end. The path to mastery is paved with responsibility, consistency, and effort. Rationalizing your way out of action might feel clever in the moment, but in the long run, it's a trap. If you want excellence, start by eliminating every reason you've been telling yourself it's not possible. That's where real progress begins. Excellence doesn't grow in the soil of blame. The moment you start pointing fingers at the economy, your boss, your upbringing, or even bad luck, you've handed over the keys to your future. Ownership is the mindset that says, no matter what happens, I am responsible for my response. That's where your power lies. When you stop looking for someone to fault and start looking for something to do, you step onto the path of excellence. Blame is a comfortable chair. It lets you sit down and rest while the world moves on without you. Ownership, on the other hand, demands you stand up, take the wheel, and steer your own ship. It's not always fair, and it's rarely easy, but it's always empowering. The moment you embrace that truth, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your results. Every champion has faced unfair breaks, unexpected challenges, and painful setbacks. The difference is that they refuse to hand over their destiny to those obstacles that leads you. They took ownership of the solution even when it didn't cause the problem. That's why they win. Excellence is not the product of perfect conditions. It's the result of taking full control in imperfect ones. When you own your actions, your habits, and your mindset, you take away the excuse to fail. You make yourself the driver instead of the passenger that leads you. Excellence isn't about luck or opportunity. It's about responsibility. When you take it fully, you open the door to a level of growth and achievement that blame could never deliver. In the end, ownership is freedom. Blame keeps you chained to the past. Responsibility unlocks the future. If you truly want excellence, stop asking who's at fault and start asking what you can do. That single shift in thinking can transform not just your results, but your entire life. Every excuse you make is like placing another brick in the wall between you and the life you want. At first, that wall might be low enough to see over, and you still believe you can climb it. But with every excuse, too tired, not enough time, not the right moment, it grows taller. Before long, you can't even see your dream on the other side, let alone reach it. The tragedy is that most people keep building that wall without realizing it. They think they're just explaining why they can't move forward, but in truth, they're stacking bricks day after day. And while they're doing that, the opportunity to build a bridge instead is passing them by. Winners don't spend their energy constructing walls. They invest that energy into creating pathways. When they face a setback, they ask, how do I get around this? When the weather is bad, they adjust the sails instead of canceling the journey. Not bridge builders, not wall builders. You can't break through that wall by wishing it away. You have to dismantle it brick by brick. That means replacing excuses with action, replacing fear with courage, and replacing doubt with discipline. Every time you do, the wall gets lower, your vision becomes clearer. In the end, success is simply a matter of whether you've spent your life building barriers or building passageways. One other takes you trapped. The other takes you where you want to go. Your dream is still there, waiting. But the question is, are you going to keep stacking bricks or start tearing them down? Winners have a habit of looking for solutions even in the middle of chaos. When something goes wrong, they don't waste time telling the story of why it failed. They focus on how it can be fixed. They ask better questions. What can I try next? Who can I learn from? What's my next step? This mindset keeps them moving forward when others are standing still. Losers, on the other hand, become experts at explaining why something couldn't be done. They have a reason for every failure, every delay, every missed opportunity. The problem is, reasons don't produce results. You can't deposit them in the bank, and they don't build your dreams. All they do is make you feel better about staying where you are. The difference between winners and losers isn't talent, luck, or even intelligence. It's the focus. Winners pour their energy into finding a way. Losers pour theirs into finding an excuse. One is forward-facing. Other is backward-looking. The direction you face determines the results you get. When you train yourself to look for ways instead of reasons, you rewire your thinking for progress. You begin to see obstacles as challenges instead of roadblocks. And the more you practice this, the faster you'll turn problems into stepping stones. In the end, life is a choice between building your list of reasons or building your list of results. The first makes you a good storyteller. The second makes you a success story. Winners choose the second every time. Excuses have a way of making you feel safe. They shield your pride in moments when failure stings or when the truth feels uncomfortable. It's easier to say, I didn't have the time, than to admit, I didn't make the time. It's easier to blame circumstances than to face the fact that you could have done more. But while excuses may protect your ego in the moment, they quietly rob you of your future. The real danger is that excuses disguise themselves as valid reasons. You convince yourself that the door was truly locked when in reality, you never even tried to turn the handle. This self-protection feels harmless now, but over time it turns into self-sabotage. The habit of making excuses doesn't just delay success. It trains you to settle for less. When you trade excuses for discipline, the shift is immediate. Discipline doesn't care how you feel in the moment. It cares about where you're going in the long run. It forces you to take ownership, to do the hard work, and to keep going even when it's inconvenient. While excuses preserve comfort, discipline builds capability. And capability creates a future worth living. If you keep protecting your pride, you'll keep living the same year over and over again. But if you're willing to bruise your ego in exchange for growth, you'll break that cycle. You'll replace I can't with I will, and I didn't have the chance with I made the chance. In the end, you can have your pride or you can have your future, but you can't keep both. The day you stop defending your limitations is the day you start building the life you've always wanted. Discipline is the great eliminator of excuses. When you operate with discipline, you don't have to explain why you didn't get something done. You've already done it. You don't wait for motivation or the perfect mood. You act because it's time to act. Discipline turns action into a habit. And when action becomes automatic, excuses lose their grip on you. The truth is, most excuses are born in moments of weakness, when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. This doesn't negotiate with feelings, it obeys the plan. It doesn't care if you're in the mood. It doesn't wait for when things calm down or when you feel ready. It simply says, it's time, and you move. Excuses thrive in a life without structure. If you leave room for uncertainty, the mind will fill that space with reasons to delay. Discipline closes that gap. It replaces I'll do it later with I'll do it now. And over time, that mindset rewires your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who explains why they can't. You see yourself as someone who simply does. A beauty of discipline is that it builds self-respect. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And the more you trust yourself, the less you need to justify anything to anyone. You stop making excuses not because you're forcing yourself, but because you've become the kind of person who doesn't need them. In the end, discipline doesn't just get rid of excuses. It makes them irrelevant. It replaces the language of limitation with the language of commitment. And once you live in that space, success stops being a question of if and becomes a matter of whens. Excellence is not a product of convenience. It's born in moments when everything in you wants to quit, but you keep going anyways. Anyone can take action when conditions are perfect, but excellence is forged when the odds are against you, when progress is slow, and when no one is watching. That's where the real separation happens, between those who dabble and those who master. Most people are waiting for the right time, the right resources, the right feeling before they move. But if you wait for easy, you'll be waiting forever. Excellence isn't about waiting. It's about working, even when you're tired, unsure, or uninspired. The willingness to act in those moments is what gives you the edge. When you push forward in difficulty, you train yourself to operate at a higher standard. Every hard step you take builds resilience, confidence, and skill. And the more you do this, the less you're controlled by circumstances. You stop asking, is this comfortable? And start asking, is this necessary? The path to excellence is littered with obstacles, but each one is an invitation. Every challenge you face is a chance to prove to yourself that you can do what's required regardless of how you feel. That's how you build a reputation, but just with others, but with yourself. In the end, excellence is not about talent or luck. It's about the discipline to take action when it's inconvenient and the courage to keep going when it's uncomfortable. That's the moment most people quit. But for those who keep moving, that's the moment they rise above the rest. Excuses have a way of taking something small and turning it into something permanent. A minor obstacle, left unchallenged, becomes a lifelong barrier simply because you keep telling yourself why it can't be done. The problem isn't the size of the challenge, it's the story you keep repeating about it. And the more you repeat it, the more believable it becomes until you've convinced yourself it's impossible. What could have been solved with a single decision now becomes a limitation that defines you. You start shaping your life around it, avoiding opportunities, and lowering your expectations to match the excuse. Instead of removing the roadblock, you learn to live with it, and in doing so, you settle for less than you're capable of. Small problems are like small cracks in a wall. If you patch them early, they disappear. But if you keep ignoring them, explaining them away, they grow until the whole structure is compromised. The same is true in life. Excuses don't just keep you from fixing the issue, they allow it to grow until it feels unmovable. Breaking that cycle starts with one simple choice. Face the problem head on, no matter how small it seems. Take action while it's still manageable, and you'll find that most limitations were only as strong as the excuses protecting them. In the end, it's just not the problem that lasts forever. It's the habit of excusing it. The moment you drop the excuse and deal with the challenge, you take back control. And once you do that, you realize most of your permanent limits were never permanent at all. Growth begins where excuses end. As long as you're defending your limitations, you're stuck inside. You can't move forward while holding on to the same reasons you've been using to stay where you are. Excuses are like anchors. No matter how much you row, they keep you in the same place. The moment you cut that rope, you give yourself the freedom to sail towards something better. The real shift happens when you stop justifying why you can't and start asking how you can. That small change in thinking opens the door to possibility. You begin to see solutions instead of obstacles, opportunities instead of barriers. Growth is not about avoiding struggle. It's about leaning into it with the belief that you can adapt, learn, and get stronger. Excuses keep you comfortable, but comfort is the enemy of progress. Growth is uncomfortable by nature. It asks more from you than you think you can give. But when you step into that discomfort without a safety net of excuses, you discover abilities you didn't know you had. Every hard step forward expands your capacity. When you end excuses, you take full ownership of your future. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions or the right mood, and you start moving with what you have where you are. That's when momentum builds. And momentum, once started, is a powerful force that pulls you toward the life you want. In the end, growth and excuses cannot coexist. One will push the other out. If you want to grow, let the excuses go. The moment you do, you'll find that you're not just moving forward, you're becoming someone who never needed them in the first place. Mastery is never the result of clever explanations. It's the result of consistent responsibility. You can rationalize your lack of progress in 100 different ways, and they might even sound convincing. But while you're crafting those explanations, someone else is putting in the work, building the skill, and moving ahead. Rationalization is a comfort, responsibility is a catalyst. Taking responsibility means you own both the process and the outcome. If things go well, you learn from it. If they go poorly, you learn from it. Either way, you keep moving. You don't hide behind the story of why it couldn't happen. You stand in front of the challenge and ask, what can I do to make it happen? That shift changes everything. The road to mastery isn't straight or smooth. It's full of detours, setbacks, and obstacles. Rationalization will tell you those detours are good reasons to stop. Responsibility will tell you they're part of the journey. One keeps you stuck, the other keeps you sharp. When you choose responsibility over rationalization, you train yourself to focus on actions, not alibis. You stop wasting energy defending why you didn't and start investing energy in figuring out how you can. This mindset turns problems into puzzles, and puzzles into progress. In the end, mastery belongs to those who take full ownership of their craft. You can't explain your way to the top. You have to work your way there. Responsibility paves the road. Rationalization just paints it pretty. One gets you there, so the other leaves you standing still.